All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Entrennial University. Today, not tonight, usually we're at night. Today, we are so excited. We have our wonderful Entrennial Donnie over here. Donnie, wait for us. Hello. She is a member in Entrennial University. She's a Millennial Entrepreneur who has a wonderful app coming out, and she's going to be talking about that in a little bit. But what we're going to be doing here today is we are going to do our mentor session for our Entrennials, where we have these two wonderful mentors, Fayoke Longe and Phil Chang. Our mentors and Entrennials from all over the world come together on this video conference so that the Entrennials can get the resources, the answers, and the solutions that they need to get their business to scale, magnify, and accelerate. So really excited to get this going. So let's start with introductions. Fayoke, please tell us, our wonderful mentor, who you are, where you're at, and what you do.
Sounds good. Hello, everyone. My name is Fayoke Longe. I am CEO and founder and creative director of Facet Creative Design, a web agency that specializes in graphic design, website design, and digital marketing. My background, I've been an entrepreneur for over 20 years now. Kind of came from college and just started on that road because I always knew that agency work wasn't for me. But I've also had the capacity of working in other businesses. This is my second startup that I've had, the first one I sold, and I'm really glad to be here. I really enjoy helping entrepreneurs and being in this environment because it wasn't something that was available to me, in 1998. So I'm really great to be here.
Thank you, Fayoke. I really appreciate you being here. And Phil, please tell us where you're at, who you are, and what you do.
Yeah, so I'm Phil. I run Retail Phil, and so I'm a retail expert. I spend my time either speaking at shows, freelancing with retailers and brands. I help them run their business. Pretty much, if you've got a pain point in your retail business, brand side or retail side, I help you fix it. My background is all retail. I've done sales, marketing, digital marketing. All that kind of stuff. And I'm also a podcaster. So I run a podcast called This Commerce Life, which focuses on small, medium businesses and all the things that make us crazy. So that's what I do. And I'm in Toronto. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here, Phil. All right. And least, but oh my gosh, the most important person in this room is Donnie. Please tell us about where you're at, who you are, a little bit about your business, and then let's start getting into the challenges so that the mentors can start giving you the advice and the direction that you need.
Hi, my name is Danielle Trouville. All my friends call me Donnie. I am in Louisville, Colorado, just outside of Boulder, in my living room at the moment, if we're getting super specific. Tiny room officially. I am CEO and founder of WiseCork. It's a wine app, and kind of started out of a hurt that happened, and one of my favorite bosses told me the key to being successful was to find a hurt and figure out how to solve it. And so that's kind of how I started this process. And I've always been the idea girl, and now trying to figure out how to turn ideas into actual actions. So that's why I am here.
Wow, amazing.
Thanks. So, the whole process started on Christmas morning, 2016. Had my dog in the car. I was going down to my parents for my to meet for my nephew's first Christmas. I was trying to get down there early. I was like, I really need 2 bottles of wine instead of just 1. So went down to my basement, to my wine cellar, and as I was going down, I saw 2 little wet spots. And I thought my dog had gone down in the basement. And I was like, oh, this stupid dog. Go in the cellar, and then all of a sudden I'm quiet for a second. I go, wait, the gate was up at the top of the stairs, and I'm quiet, and I hear the water. And my basement completely flooded. And so got to deal with that. It was Christmas with my nephew, which was a super bummer. But in my homeowner's insurance, they asked, well, how much is your wine cellar worth? I'm like, well, I don't have any idea. Like, I know what I paid for things, but wine ebbs and flows. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Like, well, you should probably figure that out. Okay. So started doing a bunch of research of trying to figure out who would who was able to do that, and between 3 different platforms and about 8 different apps, Not a single one of them did what I wanted it to do. Telling me what I paid for it, what it was valuated at, when I should drink it by, what I should pair it with. And so they, or they did it, but just didn't do it well. And so that kind of started this process. And so, sorry, I'm getting some feedback. I don't know.
Yeah, I am too. So I have some questions. So WiseCork is about being able to assess like the value of wine. Is that kind of the idea?
Well, first it was this huge process. I had so many ideas and so many things that I'm a trained chef. I'm also a level 1 sommelier. And so that turned into, and I'm an executive assistant for like 18 years. So the detail and all of those put together just led to way too many things on the plate of this. Like, this was way too long. So I narrowed it down. I was given the advice of find 1 or 2 things that you can do really well and do them fantastically. So what was this huge process is now turned into being able to have your wines in your cellar, tell you what you paid for and what they're valuated at, and when the best time to drink it, like your best drink by date. And then food pairings. So my idea is that you can be in your kitchen and go, hey, I'm making ossobuco tonight. What in my cellar is it optimal drink by date that would pair well with it?
Oh,
so
I see.
That's my process, because I love teaching people, and I know wine is such a overwhelming process, and everybody has an opinion on it. And so trying to I don't want to say, try to make it more accessible for everybody, being able to just teach you in short bursts, I think is probably a good.
I like it. I'm one of those guys because I don't know anything about wine. I buy it, I drink it. I like red wine. Like that's it, right? So I understand it. I would use it. You build it, I'll use it for sure.
Yeah. I agree with Phil. I think there's so much of it when you were first talking. At first I thought it was like a wine backup system, just because that's relatable to me in my IT space. But really, you're very much making the sommelier like accessible, the education piece of it. And I think even what seems to me intimidating as a wine cellar, my wine cellar is maybe like 10 bottles of wine, but I love to drink wine and eat, and also I'd like to share food, and so that aspect of it, whether I had a wine cellar, but that I could kind of have these great recommendations, and easily pull what I had would encourage me to begin a collection. So I think that piece of the product is even more forefront than the backup ability of it.
Well, and I want to be able to flip it too. I really appreciate that, because I know that not everybody has a cellar, whether it's, but in theory you can consider a cellar. I have 3 bottles of wine. Maybe if they're on top of your.
So I have a cellar.
Yes.
I have a micro cellar myself. Until Phil comes over, and then we have no more wine.
Yeah.
That's why we have boxes. But being able to say, I was joking of like, you have your ossobuco at your home if you have a nice cellar, or hey, my mom gave me a bottle of wine for Christmas, and my, boyfriend's coming over and I don't know what to make with it. Being able to say, here's this bottle of wine, what should I make with it? Or I'm at the grocery store, at the liquor store, and I really like this label. Is this even a good wine? Being able to take a picture of the label or the barcode, have them tell you really what it's worth, so if you're being completely ripped off at I don't want to say that publicly, but you know what I mean. And then being able to say, hey, this is a really good wine, you should make pasta with it or have pizza. Being able to flip it back and forth. So
I like that aspect of it a
Yeah.
lot.
Thank you.
Yeah. I like, maybe I'm getting off course here too, but I see the retailer in me automatically sees the other upsells here. Because I don't know anything about wine, right? So if I go to a liquor store and I'm looking, or I'm in the grocery, I will look at them and they all look the same to me, right? I'll look at the labels and kind of try and figure out, what I sort of remember I drank last time. And so like having something pushed to me once, I catalog the 3 bottles I have, and out of the 3 I go, I really like this one. And then I think after like 6 or 7 bottles of these, maybe I have to do that faster so the algorithm kicks in faster. But if I drink a lot of wine, then maybe the app can start telling me, hey, you know what, you really like, I don't know, you like Merlots from Ontario or whatever. And then, I can start, I can follow that, right? Like that'll help me figure out what I want. And then maybe you start telling me what's on sale, so that I know where to go to get it, right? Like there's kind of this really great wine drinking path I can see this going. So
well, and that's when I said I built I didn't even say it. Like, so I'm going to rewind a little minute.
Okay.
So, had this great idea, was talking to a friend of mine where anytime we get together, we leave with at least 2 viable business plans. Like, it's ridiculous just how we just gel. And so I was telling him about this. I'm like, I feel like I've spent 4 months of my life in my basement with all of my wines, like out, and all of my wines. I have a wine buying problem when I drink wine. I have these fantastic, like super inexpensive wine apps that you just like, oh, look, it's $8. And if I buy 4 of them, it's free shipping. I had to take it off my phone. It was pretty bad.
We're going to her house. That's what we're doing.
That's yeah. Phil and I are like, I can be there.
Yeah.
And the apocalypse happened, come to my house, and we're all hanging out in my basement. But so I had all of my wine put out, and I had wines that I thought I needed to save and cellar, and they would be, better later. And I found these little tabs that you would hang over the neck so you could write down like what you paid for them. And so I was doing all the legwork and research of what did I pay for it, what was the original, what the points were, what you should eat it with, all of that. And it was taking me forever. And so I was telling David about it. He goes, this sounds right up CU Boulder's alley. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, so CU Boulder, they're computer science school. They do a senior class project every year, and they need ideas. And so they open it up to the public. Because I've redone my business a few times with this. I get the newest and best eyes looking at it. They completely redo my website, add things to it, and it's giving them great experience working with the professional, and it gives me great experience of working with younger, the new generation. It's like, okay, well, it doesn't hurt. Cool. So I wrote this whole 2-page thing that included a lot of what you said, Phil. And it was this huge house that I built and turned it in, and they loved the idea. And so at they're like, yes, we totally want you in here. Let's go. The first expo, I think there were like 68 kids in that group. I had 12 kids sitting around my booth area before we were even started. They're like, we're so excited. Oh my gosh, our parents want this right now. How do we get on your team? And I'm like, well, how many do I get? So I ended up leaving with 29 resumes. So half of the kids wanted to work with me, which was outstanding. And I ended up with actually my top 5 picks ended up being the kids. I call them kids just because I'm so far removed from college, but these amazing people working with me, and a couple TAs and the professors. And so I ended up quitting my job as an assistant to do this full time. Like, I'm all in, let's do this. I own all the IP. Like, this is, I paid for this. I'm all in. The end of the school year, I didn't even realize that they had your final expo showing. Didn't know it was open to the public. Didn't know it was being voted on. Didn't know any of this. I think there were 2 sponsors, 2 of us that were there. And I had the table set up, decorated, and totally went entirely all out. And at the end of it, we won most professional and best overall capstone project of the whole entire school, which was just an amazing accolade. Yeah. And in that process and talking to people outside that were in, they were like, when is this available? What other areas are you gonna, is it gonna translate to? And I said, in my mind, I had this working in tequila and whiskey and beer and coffee and sake and all of these other avenues. And it was just this ginormous project. And so trying to scale it down and making it a one app has been a challenge. Otherwise, it's just too much. But the avenues, like you were saying, I seem to come up with a new avenue every time I think about it.
Yeah.
Restaurants or SOMs or liquor
So-
stores, location services. So the main three things as of are right now is you're able to take a picture of the barcode. We're still working on labels. That's still a little finicky. Being able to pull up information on that and save it to your seller. You're able to rate it in your seller. So you can say once you drink it that you've consumed it, so it will change the value of your seller. What you liked about it, if you like, oh, I had it with pasta and it was really yummy, whatever it is. And then the main thing that we're working on next is, because I travel a lot, and that's a really big thing. Like I was just in Greece over the summer and had some fantastic rosés in Santorini and was taking pictures of all these labels going, man, I wish I could find this in the States. So being able to pull up pictures from your phone and be able to hopefully find it in a liquor store or vineyard information or at a grocery store that restaurant that sells it. So being able to combine those.
So right now, tell me a little bit more about the business model. And then I wanted, before we could do that, so to be clear, there's kind of like your current seller that you're taking photos of, but then there's also like almost like a wish list seller too that you're.
Well, yes. And actually that's a really great idea of calling it a wish list. I'm writing that down.
Sure.
I want to be able to bring in pictures that you've already taken or wines that you know that you've liked and you've written them down, and be able to put them in the app and find them. But that's a ways down the road of being able to, because then everybody has to be digital, and that's just a whole other challenge, but that's the ultimate goal of having them.
And so Donnie, tell us a little bit more about just the business plan. Is this solely living in an app? Is it a subscription model app? Where's the revenue coming from for you?
Right now, it's just solely an app. What CU did, they did well, but it was just for a project. So it was more of concept, proof of concept. So we've completely redone it. I have a new team of people working on it. So now it's iOS and Android. But it's just app at this moment. You will be able to have it, where you can input your seller into the app. So you would be able to like take pictures of the labels, take pictures of the barcodes, pull in like this website that I buy all my wines from, be able to import my seller from that website into this, and then be able to manipulate it. I'm trying to remember your first question. I have a really bad concussion too. I probably should have started that.
That's okay. Yes. So Mai was talking about your business plan. Like you've gone over what it is right now and the status of it. But I want to know where you are seeing the revenue and the sustainability from.
So, sorry. Thank you.
Sure.
So my thought is that there are a couple other apps that they charge you for how many wines you have in your cellar. And so that's where that would play into. You are able to put in, let's say, 20 bottles of wine and keep them in your cellar, and that's at no cost. But once you get over 20 to 50 is, $1 or whatever it is, that dollar figure. And then if you go 100 to 200 is another tier. 200 to 500 is another tier, and 1,000 up is another tier. So depending on how many wines you have in your cellar would determine what tier you're at. My old boss has what did we design it at? 1755, I think, bottles of wine in her wine cellar. And so categorizing that and putting those in this app would be a chore and a half of having an option of, we will send somebody out to put all the information in the app for you. I mean, I have visions of, that's probably a whole other app.
Sorry, so on that question of the, is it kind of a monthly recurring revenue you're looking at, or is it more like an absolute number? So once you cross like 100 bottles of wine, you've got to purchase that tier in the app for like from 100 to 200 for a couple of bucks, or is that like now it's going to cost you kind of $199 a month? I just want to get it in my head how the revenue works.
I really have not figured that out yet. I know that there's and that's part of what I need help with, of, like I said, like, I'm the idea girl. I have this I think it's a great idea. Seems like everybody I talk to is a great idea. I just don't know the logistics of, okay, how do I make this profitable? How do I make it realistic? How do I move forward? Because I know that there is so many different avenues of bringing income in for this and revenue in. I just don't know the best course of action for that, if that makes sense.
Well, I've got two thoughts. So from my perspective, in the tech and app space, I really feel that this would be beneficial as a subscription service. And what that subscription service entails could be kind of the various, because frankly, you don't want people thinking about the bottles of wine that they have as value, because you want to sell them more bottles of wine. Right. So I would put something at, the value that you're giving them, whether I have, like Phil and I said, our micro cellars above our refrigerators, to a wine chest, to maybe something in my basement, you're guiding me through that process. And as a consumer, I would not have a problem in paying the same way I pay for like Fayoke apps or whatever. They don't necessarily charge me per class per se for this illustration, but I'm buying into the fact that they're a resource that I can tap to on demand to be an expert, right? To take the perfect bottle of wine to dinner or a dinner party or an event or whatever. So that has value. Furthermore, I think, and Phil, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this too, what an opportunity it is that as you educate people, that you're becoming, instead of sending people to where you buy wine, you gatekeep that a little bit, and you have distributors where you talk about that wine, and that you can add it in your app and you send it to me, or you tell me where I can find it. And, so right now I think like a piece of this would be tapping into a distributor or some kind of network where you're being the funnel in between those two sides. And that's another aspect, another stream of revenue. And then I also agree with you. Ultimately, that could be you or your sommelier. Like, you could also position yourself as this consulting. Like, I got 100 bottles of wine, and I don't want to do this. Like, and have that consulting service. That's just another ad. So I would take the value off of the amount of bottles of wine that they have and put it into what you're offering them, which I feel is really expertise, suggestions, education, and it doesn't necessarily have to be only about wine. Like, as you said, you could do this with sake and whiskey, but there's so many things around wine: decanters, corks, stoppers, as you were talking about, labels, because I think you're going to find that there's not going to be a one size fits all about how people want to organize their wine or document their wine. So I wouldn't try to put energy and resources in figuring out all those ways. I would simply enable people to have access to what you suggest. Because if I type in like wine accessories, I'm going to get bajillion answers, you know. But if I'm already knowing that I can go to you and can find whatever wine, I can find whatever suggestion, and this is the decanter you recommend, I'm going to buy it. If you've got like 5 of them on a short list, those are the 5 I'm going to check out. And then, you know, like when you make it easy for me to buy through the app, then why, you know, like why would I go on Amazon? You know, so I would think about some of those things of how you could grow, like how you can now have a revenue, but also how that revenue could expand and the river get wider as you also grow.
Yeah, so I'm right there too. So I immediately went to I'm a digital marketer, but one of my last jobs was at a startup. We're always worried about virility, and I feel like this is one of those things. Like Fayoke is right. Like to be able to take this and even build a network out of it. So as you get people who are logging their wines and like, look, the two of us, we have maybe 6 bottles between the two of us, right? But if I buy a wine, like, so I automatically identify already, but imagine if I went out and bought a Merlot, took a picture of it and went, God, I really love this wine, right? And then all of a sudden, the people who also have 3 bottles of wine are going, there's camaraderie in this, right? He knows about as much as wine as I do. And so if he liked it, maybe I'll like it, right? Or he bought it and he had I had a Merlot and I had it with salmon. Maybe that's completely wrong, right? But if I liked it like that, maybe there's another user that would be like, hey, you know what? Like, where's that label? Where do I find it? What did he eat with it? Or could I get on this app and start to circulate with, you know, could I get to you, Donnie, and say, listen, like, I'm in a jam. I've got some like real foodies coming over. I've made myself a prime rib. You know, I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, what should I get? Right. And now you've got this thing where you're able to share it, because maybe that, I'm taking us down a bit of a rabbit hole. So I'll give this example and I'll stop and come back for a second. But
I love this rabbit hole because I already went down this rabbit hole a few times, and I was told to take it off the table. I love that you brought it back up. Yeah.
But I understand why, right? And I think where I'm going with it is, I think it's in the same boat as when you've got an app, the inventory logging, like the value prop that comes with store your stuff here versus grow your love here is different, right? Like one is a very finite, you know, like if you said to me, I can organize my 3 bottles of wine, I'd be like, I'm okay, you know, whatever, right? If I got to 12 bottles of wine, like you'd have to do a ton of legwork around how many bottles of wine before somebody cares to log them all. Whereas if you said to me, if you jump in this thing, you're going to find other people like you, other dummies about wine, or other people that don't know, but you're all going to grow together, and then you're going to find wines you love. I'm in, right? Because it makes me smarter. It's aspirational.
The community.
And the community thing like can make the thing grow like crazy, right? Because now you can really follow your user base down, like all of these paths, right? The accessories, the everything. You can follow your user base. So if your user base comes and says, I need a decanter, but I don't know what the hell I'm doing, you could go down that path, right? Or if it's like, what's trending in my area right now? Like, what's everybody buying? Is it a Chianti or a Chardonnay or whatever? You could go down that path, right? Like, so you can build your app based on your user base and kind of morph a little bit more, I think.
Well, yeah, because I mean, we've all read. Well, I feel like we've all read. I read Wine Spectator, okay? Because I'm like the '90s, like what like okay, like let me get a short list. I think that it's a missed out opportunity of just there's so many aspects of wine, like. Donnie, here in Colorado, we've got like wine in a can, like infinite monkey theorem. I don't know why, with wine in a can, but they're on every freaking Frontier airline that there is, right? And I'm not saying that you have to like change the status, but there are people, and as you experienced at CU, intergeneration wanting to know about wine. And I think it's funny that like my parents want this, but there's also we want this, right? Like it is wine in a box legit. I think you can answer some of like so many of those questions, and build an appreciation for wine from a very different level and a very different market than what is currently out there that, you know, doesn't exist. Because I mean, I've tried picking up a Moleskine wine journal and that lasted about 2 seconds. And, you know, like I just like, you know what, I'm good at drinking wine. So I'm going to do that. And, but I want to find that, like, there can be like a wine for dudes. For me, I know that this is an app, but from a digital, like from a marketing and community standpoint, I really see a tag on Instagram, you know, like with a plate of whatever wine you recommend and some dish overlooking some fantastic place. You know, I like taking some stereotypes out of wine, like Phil and on his buddies, like wine for dudes, like that kind of stuff. Like those kind of things that are going to give you the traction that you want. And, you know, the subscription, like I feel that subscriptions, like really, as we all know, like were a lot more of a hard sell 3 years ago, 5 years ago. But I think what's nice about that's a continual revenue. It's something people are very used to. And it allows you to interject your insight on a regular basis, which is so key in you know, getting people connected and using your product and talking about it. And I think you could, you know, make, you know, like a subscription, maybe it has a bottle of wine or like whatever it is, that you draw people and you build that kind of rapport into your business model. I think that would be very advantageous. So, and I wouldn't be afraid, to really look at your avatars, because I feel like there's a couple different avatars. Like there's this new to wine millennial. I just turned 21. You know, like what should I be drinking? What's cool? You know, then there's also, you know, I'm probably in this middle bracket of like, I really appreciate wine, love wine, but I don't have the time to think about finding all the good ones. I need the legwork done, and I'm very willing and can afford to have somebody do that for me. And then I'd probably say there's the super wine enthusiast that has the seller that, you know, really wants to, like, sees the importance of valuation and, you know, what, like, it's super specific. It's a hobby, you know. So I feel like those are your 3 avatars, and you could have the app utilize all of those 3 and utilize different income streams with them. You know, because wine seller, you know, lady or guy is really not going to care about, like, you know, wine stoppers and that kind of stuff. But millennial ones are like cute wine sayings or sleeves or like decanters, you know, like whatever. You know, but I think there's some really great potential revenue, you know, from this idea.
Well, I absolutely love and appreciate that you've said all of those things, because they were all on my plate, and I was like kind of encouraged to take them off and to minimize this. And so I said that I wanted to build a foundation for a big enough house so that no matter how I wanted this to grow, it would grow in the way that I wanted it to. And so I built a really big foundation because of that, because of having so many different ideas and avenue streams and, you know, other ideas I didn't even talk about yet. But I want to make sure that I do the core part of it perfectly. And so that's the main thing. Like, I wouldn't have even looked at doing this if the other 2 that do this would have done it correctly. You know, like there's another wine cellar tracking thing, and I was using it, took a picture of Apothic Red. It's your $10 bottle of red wine that's everywhere. And it told me it was a 1972 white Burgundy. Like, nope.
Not accurate.
I think your challenge is going to be, like, so as you get to these avatars, I think the challenge is going to be figuring out where. So a couple of things. One is I don't think you're going to have any issues with subscription model. You, based on just your experience alone, you can build an affinity for the brand. You can get people in from an emotional and marketing standpoint to say, look, I'm a sommelier, you're getting direct access to me. You know, this isn't a subscription, it's more like a membership to something that's going to give you, you know, a more aspirational look or inspirational look on wines and how this could be a big part of your life without really working hard at it. So I think you can sell that no problem. Because I don't know what the demographics look like. Like, so how big is our demographic of, we have 3 bottles of wine, we'd love to drink more.
It's huge.
I don't know what the heck I'm doing, right? Yeah. So if that's what it is, then if the market's huge, that's great. Then just figure out like, what's the right entry point price? Is that like $3 a month? Like, would you pay 3? Would you pay 5? And then match that with your model so that you can get going on this thing, right? Because like once you start attracting those guys, I think the marketing piece of this will go viral on you pretty quickly. And you should, you know, hopefully the next time we talk in like a couple of months, you'll be like, guys, how do I hire more people? Because I
you're like, yes, there's more money, more problems.
Yeah,
I love that money, more problems stage.
Well,
That's
and
awesome.
that's what I said. One of my main challenges was like, I'm completely floating this
Yeah.
on my own. And how do I bring in more people? Like I only have 2 motorcycles to sell. Like I can't, you know, unless, you know, developers take payments in motorcycles, I'm kind of, you know.
Or wine bottles.
Or wine bottles.
Yeah.
Those are not for sale.
then they don't do work. No.
Those are mine.
Phil and I will drink. They will
half
work.
up front and half when you're done.
There's your 9-ounce pour. Well, how do I get people in to help me work on this without being able to, you know, to pay them a lot right now? How do I get income coming in? How do I get funding? And without being able to go and get funding, I need to figure out the business plan and the business model, but revenue from that. But until I actually pin that down, you know, it's being an assistant, being an EA, I'm so detailed and list oriented, and I want to know, okay, what is step 1? Then I'll do it. Step 2, step 3, like that's how my brain works. I see all of the details, but I want to know which one to move first. Like,
sure. I think this is a good place. Like, I think Phil, like maybe we can spend some time talking about what your stages might be. Yeah. So I initially see something, and this is sometimes the overwhelming part of an app, right? Because apps are fluid; they're not static, and you can build something beta or basic, and you can have a roadmap or a change log, which tells people what's coming, you know, what is on the docket for like what we're tackling next. And so I think, you know, the first thing is really mapping out what the constraints of the app are. But, you know, the first piece of this app can be a free beta test of a library of 5 bottles of whatever, and show people what it's like and what the user experience is like, because that has to be there from day 1, or people take you off your phone and you're not coming back again. Right. So spend time doing the research and getting the feedback about your user experience. And also, like as Phil said, you can start talking to people about what they would pay. I think that's a tricky question because people don't know what they would pay. I think you need to just set something out like, hey, I'm looking at $30 a month. Would you pay it? This is the value that I give you. Because it also has to be sustainable for you. Like,
yeah, definitely do the math on budget. Yeah.
You know, and so like that's, you know, phase 1. Then the second phase can maybe be a minimal subscription, like a first year intro, like, right? Like you can have $10 a month, and that's how you get people to sign up, and they're grandfathered in until 2019 or whatever, and then it's going up, you know, and there's some urgency. Get people in, get people using it and figuring it out. And then once I'd say you've systemized an individual experience, then start doing the stuff with connecting and community. Like, I want to be able to send Phil this killer bottle of wine and also make him jealous of the ossobuco that I just ate, you know, bam, you know, and so see if that fits. And also, like, your roadmap does not have to be built in stone per se, because people are going to tell you what they want next. You know, you might think they want to back up their wine cellar, and that's not the case. They want to talk to their friends. And so your development is going to need to be agile and to pivot pretty quickly. So, you know, I'd say you can have those kind of stages. And then as far as capital goes, create the business like this serves for two purposes, not just road mapping the app, but also, getting a business loan. And it's worth taking the time to build a relationship with your bank or small business development center, and see what it is, because anything needs capital. And so you might need to go through a fundraising round. But when you sell investors, I don't think you'd have a hard sell to investors for them to do it. It's just about, what you want to give,
Yeah, I think to add on to that, I think all of that is such great advice to give. I think the only pieces I would add is, like, as you add beta testers and things like that, make sure you're tracking the things that apps need to be able to make investors really excited, right? Like, your concept it's clearly a good one. You've got us excited. I feel like both of us would be on there right away. But what you want is, I know, right? But what you really want is, you want to track, like, if I put this out and I have a beta group, how fast do they adopt it, right? Like, you want to do some of that stuff so that you can say to an investor, listen, like, Phil was in there. He got in there. I sent him the invite. He signed up in like an hour. He scanned all 3 bottles in like 3 minutes, and then he was sharing already, and he was talking about it, and he wants more stuff. Like, the user inputs that go into it, and then the virility of, I had 50 beta testers, and they all want to refer new friends, getting all that stuff, like that metric that they're awfully large and in some trouble now, but think of that Facebook rise of, that kind of virility scale is going to get you. It's the sound bites, it's the data that you need to make an investor who's already excited about, because the investor is the guy with like 1,000 bottles in his wine cellar, not to stereotype, but so he's going to be excited already. And then if you show him this line, he's going to be really excited, right? So you track that data. Yeah.
Totally agreed.
Yeah.
So I think some resources that I can give you, Donnie, is to look at, like, kind of who's gone before you in a similar path, even locally. So there's a couple groups that I think are worthwhile connections for you, and that are local for you. So Women Who Start Up, they meet a month, and all they are, every month they feature a woman founder. A lot of those founders have done apps. One of the speakers in the past was the woman, I can't remember her name, but I can find that for you. But if you look up the app Cheddar Up, she's here in town, and she started the same kind of thing. I think their path was, it's basically like a Venmo before Venmo, but she was geared towards PTA moms and softball teams needing to like reimburse for snacks or whatever. And so she started very organically. It was her and an IT guy to kind of build a first draft. And hers was, I think, a web app first before a mobile app. And then she ultimately ended up doing like a Techstars accelerator round of funding. But that was how they were able to grow. And that's a good one. There's a grocery app. I can find these and send these to you too. And so she was also a beginner app. She kind of connected with King Soopers into their larger distribution system to get into some retail. That was her model. Those are two that I think are really helpful. And I would just, start reaching out. What's awesome about Women Who Start Up, I think they've got a group, maybe $200 a year. You can literally go in and ask, like, hey guys, I need a freelance IT person. You might be able to just hire somebody, freelance for 6 months. I need a, concept. I've got this beta thing, whatever, wherever you are in that stage. So those are some resources I think of the next step. But I think, as Phil said, getting those data points and getting them, like mapping that out so you can measure them and have them is going to be really vital for no matter what, no matter if you go with an investor or you simply like need a roadmap for yourself. That's going to be really key.
Okay. Well, one thing that I didn't bring up, I don't know if you, I'm assuming Gary Vaynerchuk. You heard it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually won an hour meeting with him last
Awesome.
year. And
That's awesome.
Yeah.
P.S.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I've had people like, you should lead with that. I'm like, no, I'm not going to. But it just, anyways. But scheduling, we weren't able to get it worked out. And then I ended up falling down my stairs the end of last year and getting this really bad concussion. And so we've put it on hold, but I'm like talking with his assistant and getting this rescheduled, and I don't want to, selfishly, I don't want to have that until I have something done, because I mean, he was the start of Wine Library. Like, he is one of the big wine guys, and in theory I'm kind of taking him on, total David and Goliath here. So I think that's part of the reason why I'm pushing for what's my next step. Like, what foundation do I need to have set first? Yeah. Because I mean, like, when I won this time with him, it was just over Instagram. I went from like 400 followers to like 1,200 followers in a day. And being on his blog and having this hour with him, I know it's going to go bonkers. So I want to make sure that I'm ready for that. But anyways, it's just, yeah.
So it sounds like you're asking two things: what you need ready for Gary and what you need ready for the world, right?
Yeah.
I want to have what's ready for the world first. Like, Gary is what Gary is. That's just gonna do that. But I want to make sure that I put the business first and not have any stock on what happens with Gary.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that's just like getting your business plan solid. Figure out your pricing. Figure out your growth, what your revenues are going to be in the first year, 2 years, whatever, 6 months probably, since it's an app, 6 months a year. And start doing some projections, know your business costs of what you need to get paid and what your developers need to get paid, how you want to grow, like what that looks like and how many users that is. Because with an app, it's about usability or subscriptions. So figure out how many subscriptions that you're going to need and start mapping some of that out. I think in the meantime, I would figure some things out. Like, I checked out your web page before to sign up, but I don't know nothing. It says nothing about what it is. So I think you need some clarity about what you're offering and what the value is. You don't have to list everything, but tell me what it is to get me excited if you're going to ask my name and email, right? And start you can do some of the marketing right now. If you've got all these followers on Instagram, you're going to meet with Gary, like, start taking pictures of wine, start taking pictures of bottles of wine and you drinking them and enjoying them, and all the things that are going to be the benefit for me as a subscriber that I don't know yet. And that's something that you can kind of just list build for now, while you get some of these other solid things in place.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, I agree. The marketing piece, to me, I was on your website too, and that, like, your first moment, even if you walked into a bank with a solid business plan, to have a subscriber list where you kind of go on the website and you say, this is what I am, right? And this is what I can do. If you can show up at the bank and you've got 200 subscribers on that list, you haven't even done anything yet. Do you know what I mean? And you can say to them, look, like, because social proof, like, the best and worst thing about social media is you can get people to follow you for almost anything, right? But the best part of it is you can use the very same data to leverage for your own benefit, right? So a subscription list going into get a loan, you could say, listen, like, I put up the basic concept of what the app is. I haven't produced it yet. Nobody's even seen it. Like, 500 people want to hear about it as soon as it comes out. So now I've got a potential list of 500 times, I don't know, $5 a month or whatever you want to cost it at.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're going to look at your social media. And so, if you're posting and you're doing all this stuff and you've got, 2,000 subscribers, right? Now you can, again, do the math and go, hey, listen, you know what? Like, even in marketing terms, like, if I have 10,000 followers and I get 1% of them to sign up with me, what do I have? Like, and so the bank is going to be able to do the math and go, whoa, wait a second, right? Like, even at 1% at $5 a month, like, crap, you've already got this recurring revenue and you haven't done anything yet, right? So it gives you a lot of prospects that it gives you data, potential data to model around. So you're not kind of guessing around, okay, I don't know, do I get 50 of my closest friends to sign up for this, right? Now you've got 50,000 of your closest social media friends, right, that could sign up for this. And that represents some potential volume that you can work with. And it gives you some leverage with, banks or, angel investors, however you want to spin kind of that first step. Yeah, I would definitely do it. Like the marketing stuff would be, you haven't done anything yet. You just told the two of us and we're super excited, right? So, you know what I mean? Like, so put that on a website and all of a sudden you've got people that'll be like, oh my gosh, like when does this come? Right.
And you do, I mean, you've got that concept from CU. I'm not sure what it looks like. That's, I mean, that is something, like I would not worry so much for this, where the stage of you're in, of making sure that all the things are like hung properly in order. You can broad brushstroke it, but you need to be really detailed about what you're going to track and what makes a sustainability sense, because that's the people that you're pitching this to. That's what's going to matter right now. So I'd start looking at that. Spreadsheets, Airtable, Excel are going to be your friends, and run some scenarios.
Yeah.
So
lots and lots of calculations.
Yeah. And that's like marketing is definitely my weak link. Like I know that even though I kind of see myself as a jack of a lot of trades, there are things that I'm just not great at, and marketing is not one of those. Tooting my own horn is a little hard, but if it's something that I'm passionate about, I will tell everyone without feeling like I'm selling it. So, but if you tell me to sell something, then that's a whole other, I don't know why what the disconnect is in my head, but
no, it's hard though. Yeah, it's hard, right? Like it's a difficult thing to do, right? Because when you're someone who likes to get into it and get into the details, and you kind of like to get into the work, it's hard to figure out, like it's hard to talk about yourself and go, look at me, I'm so great, right? Like, so it's definitely part of what helps you in all of this is the research that you're doing, knowing the marketing parts they'll be easier once you get through it sounds like you already kind of know what your target market looks like. Figure out, I would narrow in on like a set of people that you have a working theory around that would, that would automatically respond to this app, right? And I would narrow down on those guys. I would start to think about the things that you would say. Don't try and market it. Just say, like, what is it? Like, do I love Chardonnays? Today I'm thinking about a Chianti. I have no idea what I'm talking about, by the way, but like whatever the wine is, right? So whatever it is, I would start to classify that. And then let's say it's that millennial class of like 28, kind of like 27 through 32, 35-ish, and they want to sound smart. They want to be smarter. Even if you're not doing the work yourself, like if you start to classify, like, here's what I would talk about if I were talking to that group, you can start to outsource that, right? Like, you've got local colleges near you, you've got marketing students who desperately want to get into digital marketing. You don't have to do that stuff. It's funny because at my last job, I ran all of their social media stuff, and the CEO would say to me, I know you're posting stuff. Could you not sound like a 40-year-old with 3 kids? Could you sound more millennial? And so the solution,
like, ow,
right? Like, oh yeah, I'll get right on that. No problem, right? Like
truth. Hashtag truth.
This is lit. How do I use lit in a sentence? Oh my God, and so what you do is like, but what you can do is, if you know what you want to post, go out and get someone and hire them part-time. Like, that was my solution, was like, I'm going to hire a millennial to sound like a millennial. And she's going to take all my
sounds like millennials.
Right?
Millennials.
Yeah, and she's going to take my dad's sayings and go, no, we're not going to say it like that. I'm like, I don't care. Like, you say it any way you want. Yeah. We'll just, you do it, but I'll tell you how to do it, right? And that'll help you kind of get things moving. So
Danielle, don't be afraid to find resources. You know, if the lessons I've learned in both businesses is really get out of your own way as fast as, you know, figure out what you're really great at.
Yeah.
And then, you know, really hire out the rest and do that and outline that. You know, that's part of an investor ask is figuring out how to staff up. And that might need a marketing person, might need a copywriter or whatever you don't, what's not your wheelhouse. Yeah, exactly. And that, you know, do that from the beginning. So I hope that's very helpful.
So helpful. You've given me entirely too much to think about, which is a good thing.
Job well done. Our work here is done.
Yeah.
So next time you need to do this, call us and we'll come over.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Anastasia can live stream it from your house.
From the summer.
We'll all just be on the call. Just in the back. Phil, what'd you say? Yeah.
It'll be
full of full of dad jokes and bad cliches.
Yeah.
Love it. Thank you. Truly,
No worries.
So Donnie, do you have any last minute questions that you really are just dying to get answers or solutions to before we wrap up?
What was on my list? No, I think you guys have hit like my main things. Like, how do I figure out funding? How do I get a team together if I'm not able to truly fund it? And then what are my first steps? And that is, you know, getting my business plan really dialed in, revenue plan, and getting it out there. I mean, for the website, it went live like 2 days ago. Like it was just, okay, got to get this like up and going. And so like it's so baby, it's crazy. So many
plugs are really key too. So the website that just went live 2 days ago is called wisecork.com. So if you like this and you think Donnie's going to do amazing, you should sign up at wisecork.com.
Thank you. Yes, wisecork.com. And it's because I want people to be wise about wine. And the college kid says that I was sort of a wise. So that's a play on that. I don't know if I can say
such a WiseCork.
Yeah, you're such a WiseCork.
So, yes.
It's a gift and a science. And I would too, Donnie, I don't know if you've delved into your resource, your business plan, but there is a great website called BizPlan, BIZPLAN.com. It'll walk you through all of those steps and kind of breaks it down into bite sizes for you. You know, and it's a really great resource to kind of just get it out of your head and on paper.
Yeah. I started with one, and I was actually, when I was in Greece, I was sitting on the beach in Santorini, had a great little plate of wonderful seafood and my fantastic rosé that was there local. I drove past the vineyard and looking at different colors for the website based upon the rocks that I found in the beach, and was writing all of this plan down. It was so great. And then I hit the financial and was like, more wine, please. So that's as far as I got.
Well, so there's resources for that too. You know, like if you ever need help, I can show you the back end of how I've broken it down in my business, and I'm always glad to share that with you too. So please reach out if you need it.
Yeah, same here. Yeah.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you guys so much. And Anastasia, thank you for putting this together. You are a rock star in my world.
Absolutely, Donnie. Anything for you, of course. Awesome. So this kind of wraps up the mentor session for you, Donnie. Let's do a round of just kind of like what takeaways you are feeling like you're going to take from this and implement into your business to move forward.
Oh my goodness, there's so many. I mean, first is update the website and make sure that there's a brief little breakdown on that, and get my business plan really dialed in to figure out really the hard legwork of the financials and income and revenue, so I can actually take that next step of getting backing for this so that I can explode it and plug it more and try to do as much marketing as I can and reach out to the resources available to me and have these two on speed dial and wink, wink. And just rock it.
Awesome. Yay. So glad. So glad. And, you know, you all are so welcome to use in the app itself. There's a chat function. totally send chats between each other. Donnie, if you have any residual questions from this, post it into the app on the timeline there. Just like Facebook, you just post it into that timeline, and you can even tag these guys or other mentors to try and answer questions for you that are residual from this actual session here. So if you're kind of like, do you have a suggestion of how I could figure out the financials? They could post a link or, have a call with you, whatever that looks like. So feel free for everybody to use the resources in the app to communicate and post and share. That's what it's for. So awesome. So thank you so much, Fayoke and Phil, for being here. And Donnie, you did such an awesome job. Thank you for being such an amazing Entrennial for our Entrennial University. You're going places for sure.